Hi, and welcome to another edition of What We're Reading here at Catholic Mom and Daughter. I'm Jennifer, and this is Kate.
And today we're going to be talking about some of the books that we read in April and May. We finished a favorite series, we started another one that one of us likes and the other not so much, and also read a highly unusual book. So we're going to start first together to talk about books 5 and 6 in the Armor of God series. We have read and reviewed books 1 through 4 in other videos, but we finally got around to reading the last two books, seeing how everything plays out, and also finally getting to learn Sir Lucian's full story.
So if you're not familiar with the Armor of God series, it follows a group of young students at night school, and they're all trying to earn different parts of the armor of God. The helmet of salvation, the sword of the Spirit, all of these things that come from Ephesians chapter 6 in the Bible. And Sir Lucian is their teacher.
So we had a really fun time finally learning Sir Lucian's full story. And also, let's just say that the ending of this series does not disappoint.
Yeah, Teresa Linden is a master storyteller, and so just when she clears up one mystery about Sir Lucian, she leaves us with another. So we want to know what happened to Sir Lucian in book 6 at the end. Where did he go?
So maybe this mystery means that there'll be more books about these characters, more about Sir Lucian. We don't know, but we really hope we have our fingers crossed. So I'm going to start first today with this book, Champion of Doldor by Sandralena Handley. So this is a fun fantasy classical adventure novel which follows our two main characters, Aloran and Larissa. So Aloran is a young man who has been given the quest to find and help the lost princess of the realm, and Larissa has to work to take her throne back from the evil warlord who stole it from her. So they have to come together and help each other on this big, long, epic quest. And they also have to find and restore the Heartstones, which can only happen by practicing specific corresponding virtues. So I really enjoyed this book. There is so much action and adventure, all these twists and turns and sword fights in it. I think that a lot of people will really love this book as much as I did. It could be great for like middle school and high school, maybe even reading aloud for like slightly younger kids. And I also think it could be a great starting point for discussion of the different virtues that are at this book's core. So I really had a fun time with this book, and I definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't already.
So my first book is The Shadow of the Bear, which is book number 1 in the Regina Doman Fairy Tales Retold series. And I loved this book. I read it the first week of April, which was the very end of Lent, when I was just so ready to read something new and different after reading all those spiritual books during Lent. This really fit the bill for me. It is the old story of Snow White and Rose Red retold and set in modern times. So Rose and Blanche Breyer are two sisters who have recently moved to New York City with their mom, and they accidentally befriend a young man named Bear who has a mysterious past. So there's a lot of mystery and intrigue and suspense in this book. For instance, who is Bear? Where does he come from? Where does he even live? He just appears and disappears into the night. So that's all good, but at the same time, I also enjoyed reading about Rose and Blanche in their everyday lives. They like to read, they like to sew and go thrifting, and I like all those things too, so it's not a surprise that I really enjoyed this book. So this book is rated for readers who are 14 years old and older, and I definitely agree with that, because at the end of the book, the action and suspense really heat up, and it might just be too much for younger kids. So I've read it, I've moved on, and I've read books 2 and 3 in the series. I also enjoyed those. But very interestingly, Kate is not a super big fan of this series. She read the first one and she thought it was good, it was okay, but it was not earth-shaking. So she has not kept up with the series. I am on my own, but that's how it plays out sometimes. I like something and you don't, and that's fine. I'm still a big fan of this series.
So my next book is a very interesting little book called The Cat Who Saved Books by Sasuke Natsukawa. I really hope I'm saying his name right. But this is a translated book coming from the Japanese, and it was a very random library find. You were just browsing the shelves, came across it, thought it looked good, and decided to read it. The plot in this book is simple enough. We're following Rintaro, a teenage student who is left at loose ends after his grandfather dies. They were living together, running a little bookshop together, and now all of his world has sort of fallen apart around him. But before he has to leave the bookshop for good, a mysterious talking cat comes through the back wall asking for his help to save books that other people are destroying. So they go on these fun adventures to save the books. But there is so much in this book that I still don't fully comprehend. It seems like there are so many different themes and messages that the author is putting in there and trying to get across that I didn't understand fully. Like, I feel as if I would have to almost analyze this book and reread it a bunch of times to fully understand everything that's going on. It feels like it takes like a higher intelligence level than what I have to understand all of these different messages about books and reading. So if you have happened to have read this book, let me know your thoughts down in the comments, because I would love to see some other opinions on this one. It was fun, but I still don't quite know what to make of it.
My next book is Father Elijah, an apocalypse story written by Michael O'Brien. Now, I have heard about this book, I've seen it in the church library, but it is 600 pages long, so I never quite felt like getting around to reading it. However, recently I saw a video on YouTube from Father Mark Mary, who is a Franciscan friar, and he said he has read this book multiple times. So I thought, 600 pages and he's read it more than once. It must be really good. And I have to tell you, it definitely is very good. So it tells the story of Father Elijah, who survived the Holocaust as a young Jewish boy, and then through a very interesting series of events, he went on to become a Catholic priest and a monk at Carmel. After 20 years of being a monk and a priest, he is called to the Vatican to undertake a special mission for the Pope, and that is to investigate the President of the European Union, who is suspected of being the Antichrist. So if that sounds intense, it is, but the book is so fascinating. You have mysteries, you have heavenly visions, you have saints, you have all kinds of intrigue and end time stories going on. Father Elijah reads the book of Revelation all throughout the story, so you get parts of that thrown in. It was a real page turner for me, but having said that, I will throw out one caveat. There are parts of the book that I found a little bit difficult. For example, in one part, Father Elijah is called to the bedside of a dying man who is very old and he's lived a very derelict life, and he tries to shock Father Elijah by telling him all the sordid details of his past. I did skip over a few of those pages because I understood the gist. Yes, he has lived a horrible life, and I felt like I just don't need to know every last little detail. This is not a book I would hand off to my younger teenagers or younger children. I don't think it's really suitable for them. But later on in high school, 16, 17, 18 on up, and definitely adults will enjoy this book. If you are looking for a Catholic thriller that you can't put down to read this summer, Father Elijah is definitely that book.
So my last book today is this one, Bomb by Steve Sheinkin. So this was one of the last books we read in our school year, and it is all about the race to build and steal the first atomic bomb. So we read this book as a supplement to our physics lectures because the main focus with this book is on the physicists who created the atomic bomb or who discovered the science behind the atomic bomb. So it follows them and their stories. It shows what it was like to work on this project, the extreme high pressure and emotions, all the ups and downs, everything that they went through. And it also does, though, explore some of the other related stories. Like it says on the cover, the race to build and steal. We get to follow some of the spies who were trying to steal the information about the bomb for the Soviets, and even other people like the pilots who dropped the atomic bomb, or the team who blew up the Vemork heavy water plant. So all in all, this book is really fascinating. It's great for a look at sort of like applied physics, how physics really comes to life in the real world in this historical context. So this would be great for homeschool, like middle school or high school, or of course you could just read it on your own. It's that good.
My last book is called Looking for the King by Dr. David C. Downing. So this book is really interesting because some reviewers online really like it and some really don't like it. And because of those mixed reviews, I almost didn't read it. Then I thought, it sounds fun and interesting, so I'm just going to give it a shot. And I'm so glad I did because I really did enjoy it. It's the story of two Americans, Tom and Laura, who are both in England at the beginning of World War II for different reasons. Tom is writing a guidebook to all the different sites in England related to King Arthur. That's why he's there. And Laura is visiting her aunt, but she's also had this strange series of recurring dreams all throughout her life that are very vivid. And she feels like the dreams are trying to tell her something, and they're full of mystery. And she thinks that if I go to England, I think that somehow something will happen and I'll be able to understand what these dreams mean. So Tom and Laura meet up, and they also meet up with the Inklings, which is a real life group, or was, famous British scholars and authors, including C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien. So it is a lot of fun to go to these Inkling gatherings with Tom and Laura because they get to know these famous writers, what they're wearing, what they're eating, what they think, what they're reading. So C.S. Lewis, it's so funny, at one point he says, I'm thinking of writing this story about a group of kids who are evacuated to the English countryside and they have all these adventures and there's a lion. What do you guys think? Does that sound like an interesting story? So that makes the book so much fun. Also, you get to go home at one point with J.R. Tolkien and meet his family and see how they live, and that was very amusing. So I definitely fall into the camp of reviewers who really enjoyed the book. This is not a particularly scholarly or deep work, but if you need a fun book to read on the beach in the summer, this one will definitely fit the bill for you.
All right, so there you have it. That is a look at some of the books we have been reading in April and May. And let us know down in the comments what you've been reading lately.
Yeah, we're looking for fun summer reads. We're done with school and we're just ready to move on to some light and entertaining books. So leave us some recommendations. That would be great.
So we hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.